Yeah, but also next job on my Subaru WR1 is to replace the rear shock absorbers. So what's happened is the car started to knock on one of them, and I believe it's knocking on that. It's obviously really hard to tell, but I've checked all the anti-roll bar mounts, checked everything else underneath. There's nothing obvious. Subarus, according to all the forums and the internet, they're really common for a knock. And at the end of the day, this car has just gone to 100k last week, so on 100k and 71 miles now. So, and their original units. So, per my previous video, which was about probably a couple of years ago now, I reckon, I did that technique where you take the shock absorber off, you drill it, you tap a grease nipple into where the grease goes, and then you pump the unit full of grease. And what it does is that removes the inner part, removes the play from the inside section, which stops the inner part of the piston knocking on the outer casing when you accelerate and unload the suspension. So honestly, it worked absolutely fine until about a week or two ago when it started to knock. I did get underneath there and pump it full of grease again, but ultimately no more grease went in. Well, probably a tiny bit of grease might have gone in, but really nothing else went in, you know, as expected. And it's just started to knock, so I believe it's this left one here. So what I've done is gone to scoobyWorld, had a chat with them, ordered Tein Endurapro plus a pair of genuine top mounts as well, because you might also do that. Although they might look great condition, you might also do it at the same time because you have to take the whole thing apart. Not a big job on this car. So you take the rear seat out, jack the car up obviously, take the rear seat out, get access to the 3 bolts on each side at the top, remove like the brake line, for example, down there to unclip it, I think, and then there's 2 bolts down there holding the strut to the axle assembly, and basically then pull it out. That's kind of effectively what it is. Then you need obviously spring compressors to compress that spring to get the top off. Obviously for mine, I took the top off, you know, when I refurbished the shock absorbers and the units, you know, a couple of years ago roughly, when I got them sandblasted and painted and all that sort of stuff. So it should come apart fine. So yeah, Enduro Pro is the ones which are going to go on this car because of that knocking. So hopefully I'll sort it. And like I say, the car just did 100k, so these look like the original units. They're done very, very well for 100k. Cool. So that is the summary. So yeah, I'm going to crack on now, remove the wheels and go from there. Cool. Right, so first part, loosen off the bolt. Second part, really easy, remove the rear seat, super easy. Pull off this plastic cover, 12 mil rear seat comes out, and then you get access here to 1, 2, 3, 4 12 mils, and then the backrest just like lifts up. Sorry, it's so sunny in here, so it's hard to film. It's clipped on here. It's anything to note. So you basically have to literally lift it up, make sure the little hook lifts out of that, and obviously when you put it back on again later, obviously make sure you can see that the hook through this hole of the seat, basically make sure it clips on there. And obviously in these, sorry, bad filming, but make sure it clips onto those. Otherwise incredibly easy. And then you've got access here. Sorry, it's so sunny at the back. Then you have access there to the three nuts and the cover, and then that's the top of your strut. So that's it basically from the inside. Cool, nice one. Right then, yes, so it just started to rain heavily. Luckily I'm in a carport which keeps me vaguely dry. So yeah, excuse all the rain, all the sand and crap was on the beach in the car earlier. So underneath here, you pop off the little clip here. Just one of those. Obviously this has been off, like I mentioned, you know, a year or 2 ago, so it came off really easily. Undo that. Then there's 2 large 22 mil on this car. They're not the camber ones, they're the straight bolts, and of course I replaced those of course as well a couple of years ago, or a year or so ago, whatever, so they're in good condition still. So it's definitely worth checking out those acts. If they're skanky, order a set of those as well whilst you're at it. Those are off, can knock those through, and then the strut will come out. So what I've done inside the car is I've removed 2 out of the 3 nuts and left 1 nut loose in place just to stop the unit from falling down, that's all. As I undid it, so I'm going to pop these 2 out, knock these 2 bolts out now. That should then sort of come loose a little bit. I think you have to push down on this a bit just to sort of release it, and maybe get a screwdriver in there. You obviously don't want to make sure that this make sure, just in case, I'm not sure, but you don't want it to obviously to fall flat like that, and you know, potentially pull, you know, the drive shaft out. So in a second I'm going to put a spare axle stand underneath here, just in case that were to sort of fall over. I don't know if it will or not, but just in case, just a little tip. Cool, nice. Right, yes, okay, so I'm not going to remove the springs yet and have a go at the top yet. There's the spring compressors that I use until the new Tein units arrive, and I can measure, obviously, bottom to, cup height, for example, just to make sure that it's not lower or higher or whatever, because obviously I want the car, like I mentioned, to be exactly the same height, higher at the back and lower at the front. That's incredibly important. So that's the new units there. These are the grease nipples I installed a while back on my prior video, which did work for, since that moment up until about 2 weeks ago, which was middle of October 2022, in case anyone's watching this, in the far future. Cleaned up all the nuts and bolts. Gonna try and locate another clip actually. If not, I'll just buy a new pair actually, because that's an original one. It looks pretty rusty and crappy, so if I need to buy one, I might as well buy a pair. So that's cool. And I'm gonna find another washer as well to replace that broken one there, and also find out the Torx, get all the Torx ready. So yes, those are them. Happy days. I've also gone round and made sure, doubly sure, that these are all torqued up as well. So these are indeed all torqued up still, so they're tight, and the anti-roll mount, which you can just about see here, those do have a habit of coming loose and causing a sort of clicking noise as well. I'll double check that. That's definitely tight as well. Cool. Right, that's it for now. I want to wait to Scooby Parts, or scoobyWorld, I can't remember now, apologies. Wait to those guys send over the Tein Endurapro ones and go from there. Thanks all. Right, yeah, happy days. So thanks to scoobyWorld, they sent me over the parts. So here they are. So it's, I don't know if it's Tein or Tein, I'm not sure. But these are the Endurapro ones. My particular car says Subaru WR1 STI. I think it's 5x100, I think the stud pattern is on this particular car. So it's basically, these ones are the ones it should be, which are 149 each. So that's that. Comes with, in there is a new top nut at the back, stickers, instructions, all that sort of stuff. Also went for a pair of brand new mounts as well for ICP car parts. So those are happy days. Had a look at those, they look sweet. All of the ones on there, they look really good. I don't know how old they are, but they do look really good. But I thought, time you take up the effort of getting these things out, putting them in, and you might as well like use new parts, because it is a bit of an effort, to be fair, to get them in and out, spring, compress and tighten them all up, torque them up, get the back seat out, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, log on some new ones. I would just suggest, height wise, they look spot on. So when I actually compared them really closely, they looked identical height. I am going to measure them to be exactly sure. They looked exactly the same. Obviously the spring cups looked exactly the same. They're sided, so I'm going to undo that on there in a second. Make sure it's the same as this one. So the brackets are sided. So this, obviously this one here fits. This is the same one basically for those two. Looks good quality. Looks a bit thicker here as well, like it says. Otherwise it does look, it looks high quality. Obviously you can't tell, but it's meant to be OEM quality. So OEM quality and ride, obviously mixed with the Pro Drive springs. So these are original units from a WR1. One thing I didn't realise was these, didn't even think about these rubber cups. I kind of just bypassed that thing entirely. So I'm going to see how much those cost, because to be fair, if that's another 30-40 quid, might as well buy a set of those as well and lob them on, as I'm not fitting this until the weekend, rather than taking these off and finding out that these are a bit soft and old and crap. And under if these are the original ones, which they probably are, and they're also 20 years old, for example, or whatever it is, from 18 years old, whatever it is, might as well do those as well. So yeah, that's the plan. And then I say, once they're on, if they're all sorted, I might even look at refurbishing these, see if there's any value in somebody maybe wanting to buy these. One of them is slightly knocking. Maybe there is a value, so it does look like you can take them apart, from underneath here, potentially replace the bushes. So just an idea anyway. But yeah, there we go. Right, I shall get online now and have a look for that, and then fit these at the weekend. Cool. Right, yeah, it's happy days. Just taking it apart, not too bad at all. So what I did, long torque wrench, because obviously these things here should be really tight, and obviously if you haven't taken it off before, chances are it'll be really seized, all that sort of stuff. So spring clamps on, tighten them up a little bit, don't need to do much on the rear ones. It's a 6mm, decent quality one. So if you've got any dirt and shit in there, absolutely clean it out, get it absolutely like mint, so this goes in nicely and solid and doesn't slip, whatever. So literally put the spanner on. You'll see one of these spanners here, 17mm, shoved that in the end, rested there underneath my knee, and then literally just pulled on that, and then obviously it broke the seal, came off. Obviously, like I said on the prior part of the video, I've taken these apart a couple of years ago, so you know there's no drama getting this off. Otherwise people unzip them with one of those guns. So that's off now. That'll come apart. Obviously always be careful with springs, but this is only compressed a little bit on these ones. So now it's off. I can swap this over and put it onto the new unit, and obviously make sure that, say this for example here points upwards, and then this also where it says 4-wheel drive out, if you've got that on your new ones, that also points in the same direction. So that's how it goes, like that. Cool, right, I shall crack on. Nice. Now actually, whilst these are off, actually a little comparison. So height wise, exactly the same. The cup, so it is the Tein Endurapro's cup, is exactly the same. Rubber seal looks good on this as well, and it goes in the same slots, same drainage holes. Difference, obviously, if you can see that, obviously these are a lot of different designs. Obviously it's much older, this is modern, but yes, you can see that it's obviously much thicker there. So obviously that's what causes part of the knocks, you know, where this piece here sort of pulls, sort of twists slightly, and it knocks on the outside of this tube here. So I presume this one has many more like bushings or whatever throughout it. Obviously both of them have got a cover, the other cover's in there, and then yeah, it's got a bit of just a different design around here, if you can see, you know, a very, very different design around there. So I'll try this in a second and see how it goes on and see, you know, how it looks. But yeah, thicker thread here for example as well, so definitely different there, but certainly the same height, which is good. Cool, but I guess at the end of the day, modern technology, modern versus older design. Cool, cheers. Well, yeah, as you can see it's done, so some tips and advice. So the old Subaru one, that took a 17mm plus an Allen key in the end to hold it. These new ones have a recess for a spanner plus a 19mm in the end. So obviously, ideally the tool you probably would need is one of those impact screwdrivers. I forget what they're called now, the proper ones there for cars and wheels and all that sort of stuff. I'd imagine that's a proper tool for it, because I'd imagine you can just whiz it up and happy days. But if you haven't got that I haven't got, then you need to use obviously a spanner like this, a ring span 19mm. But my ring spanner was basically wouldn't go in because there's too much metal on the spanner. I don't know if you can see it or not. So what I had to do is sorry, it's not focusing. I had to basically use my angle grinder, nice and easy as you can see there, to take off quite a bit of metal in order for that to be able to go in there, so I can then get hold of this. Before I got to that, obviously once you tighten it on, it's got a locking washer on the actual nut itself. So what I had to do is, you can't get access to this part here without obviously twisting this and pulling it down, then it's a real bitch to get on again. So what I had to do is I had to pull it upwards underneath here, and then I literally just used a pair of rubber glove with some of these inside there, put it into each finger, and then literally went inside there and then just gripped it. And then obviously you grip it really solid, don't move around because you don't want to scratch it obviously, and honestly just tightened it up there with the 19mm. It went past it, past the locking ring, then obviously remove those, happy days. Then you can get the spanner on there and rest it on the ground, so you can have like 1 foot basically on the small spanner, on the 12mm spanner, and then obviously you can crank this bad boy down to the relevant torque, which ultimately you just do it as tight as you can, because of course you can't get a torque wrench on there. So tight as you can, happy days. Then you line it up, like I mentioned, you get the holes facing you, and then you get the top part here obviously facing you as well, because if it's a genuine part here or a new part, it'll have outer on there. These ones are from ICP, these parts, so make sure that's pointing outwards as well. And then you can then remove the spring clamps, and then obviously it just tightens up, happy days. I then just double checked this with another 12mm and a 19mm spanner, just to double check it was definitely as tight as I can get it, and not concerned with that at all, happy days. I reused the ring down here, came off completely fine, but a bit of silicone spray, it looked in really good condition, no damage, so I thought, yeah, you know what, we'll reuse that. Didn't realise Tein also supplied new nuts as well for the 12mm at the top. So happy days. So yeah, so you do need a selection of tools, but honestly, once I'd filed down that spanner, happy days, nice and easy. So yeah, I can crack on with the other one now. Cool, cheers. Oh yeah, so both the units are built, obviously. No problem at all, no drama at all building these babies up. Really pleased with them, they look really good. So yeah, I'm going to put them on now. Got the old units in there, like I mentioned, if anyone's interested. Very, very cheap, you know. Obviously, once I've tested out these babies first, make sure they're comfortable and they're good and it's the right height, all that sort of stuff. But yes, I'm going to put them on now. Obviously got the correct pot here, so this pot facing outwards, and then obviously this pot here facing outwards as well. So yeah, Lobby's in the car now with the new bolts and happy days. Right, let's go for it. Yeah, my also last piece, so happy days, looks really good, and honestly it's not a difficult job to fit struts. Obviously you know, you need some skill and all that sort of stuff, but it's not difficult. Just tighten up the bottom bolts once I managed to. That was a bit tricky to get in by yourself because I had to do a combination of basically like lifting up, you know, with your knees a little bit, lifting the strut up with your hands a bit, pushing this in, you know, in order to sort of get the knuckle onto the strut and lined up. And then you end up trying to sort of put a fat screwdriver in. Then you proceed to like a 3/8 extension bar in one of the holes, which fits really nicely. Then you can sort of leave and wiggle it around in order to get one of the bolts in, and then you can pull it out and put the other bolt in. That kind of gist. So it's a bit fiddly, but it's absolutely doable. One person basically. So just tighten them up. The manual says for 2004 onwards 200 on the back. So you've got here 200 nm. And then 45 for the free 12 or 13 mils at the top. On this one it's 13 mils, on original it's 12s. So that's in. One issue, minor issue, is that the clips I brought are actually too small. They're just not the same as the old clips I took out. So although they are Subaru ones, they are marked as rear, they're just too small. So I've got the part number. I've had to put a cable tie around it for the moment, as you can just see there, and obviously I'll find the correct ones because I've only got basically one original one left, which is rusty, and I'm not putting that on. So yeah, I need to find the correct clips for that, but and you can line the car and fit those exceptionally easy from that. So that's happy days. But yeah, it looks it certainly looks really good, and hopefully it will perform well and be the same height and all that sort of stuff. So I'll do a little follow-up video obviously once I've driven it and it's sort of bedded in over, you know, an hour's drive. But yeah, happy days, good stuff. Cool, nice one.